Chapter 3, Concept 2 deals with adding and subtracting mixed numbers. So we talked about adding and subtracting fractions yesterday. Now we're going to include mixed numbers. Let's review. What's the top number of a fraction called? Write down what you think it is and check with me. Should say numerator. Write down what you think the bottom of the fraction is called and then check with me. It's the denominator. So numerator on top, denominator on the bottom. Now, the steps for adding and subtracting mixed numbers are similar to what we did yesterday. We start off with add or subtract the fractions, getting common denominators if necessary. So that's exactly what we did yesterday. Now, here's where it gets a little different. When we subtract, we might need to borrow from the whole number if necessary. And I'll explain what that means when we get to one of those problems. If you had to do that, the next step is to add or subtract the whole number. And what's always the last step with fractions? Simplify if needed. Now, guys and girls, these are problems where leaving your answer as a mixed number is acceptable. And I am going to want you to write these problems vertically because I think it makes the most sense for you guys. After you do this, if you think you want to do them horizontally, that's fine. But I really do think 7th graders do best writing them vertically. Let me section off my paper. I need to know how much space I got. Okay. So let's start with number 1. 5 1/13 plus 8 8/13. So here's what I want you to do. 5 1/13, well, that's got a common denominator with this, so let's just go ahead. Add the fractions. 8 and 1 would make 9. Keep the denominator. 5 plus 8 would be 13. And then simplify. 9 over 13 is a normal fraction, and it cannot be reduced, so that's our answer. So, first problem shouldn't be too bad, pretty straightforward. Let's keep going. 6 9/15 plus 2 12/15. Well, we have our common denominators, so let's keep the 15 on the bottom. Add the numerators. 9 plus 12 would give me 21. And 6 and 2 is 8. Now, it's a mixed number, but the actual fraction part over here is improper. And you either have an entirely improper fraction or an entire mixed number. You don't want to include both together. So what you need to ask yourself is, how many 15s would go into 21? The answer is 1. So you give this 8 one more number. It becomes a 9. Now, if you take 21 and subtract 15, how many are left over? The answer would be 6. That is what your numerator is going to become. And then you keep the denominator of 15. See, it's not top heavy compared to the bottom anymore. But you should notice something else. 6 and 15 can be divided by 3. So we've got to divide them both by 3. Divided by 3, you get 2. Divided by 3, you get 5. So that answer is 9 2/5. So, common denominators, that's what we've had so far. Now we move on to when they are not common, like number 3. 3 2/3 plus 10 5/6. Here's where writing it vertically is, I think, the better option. You want to write the first number on top, 3 2/3, and plus 10 5/6. Okay, our denominators are not the same. So what could 3 and 6 both go into? And the best answer would be 6. So take the whole numbers, I kind of like to make a little arrow, and keep the whole numbers the same. So this is going to stay 3 plus 10. Now, what do you multiply 3 by to get to 6? The answer is 2. So take the 2 on top times 2, and you would have 4 now. 4/6 is the same as 2/3. That's why we can do this. 6 is going to stay 6. What do you multiply a number by to keep it the same? The answer is 1. So plus 5/6 will stay the same. Now, add the fractions. 4 plus 5 is 9 over 6, and 3 plus 10 is 13. Now, I'm going to have to get a little crafty here because I'm running out of room to write. I'm just going to go up here. 13 and 9 over 6. Well, this is like the last one. It is what I call top heavy. So how many 6's go into 9? 1. So give that to the 13 and make it a 14. With what left over? Well, 9 minus 6 would give you 3 over 6, which you should know reduces one more time to be 14 and 1/2. So that would be our answer for number 3. I'm going to draw an arrow saying, hey, this is the problem that goes to. So that's addition. Now we're ready to do some subtraction. We're not going to do all of these in order, guys and girls, so I would not work ahead too much. Subtraction. Do you have common denominators? No. 6 and 8. Now, if you can't think of one, you can multiply them together. 6 times 8 would be 48. But that is not the lowest denominator in this case because 6 and 8 would both go into 24. So 24 is going to be our best bet when we're ready for it. So 3 and 1/6 minus 1 and 1/8. We just said keep the whole numbers, but we're making the denominators 24. You multiply 6 by 4, so 1 times 4 would give you 4 up here. You multiply 8 times 3 to get to 24, so this will stay 3. And then we subtract. 4 minus 3 is 1, keep the 24, and 3 minus 1 is 2. No reducing, no top-heavy numbers, so this one is completed. Okay, now let's go on to a little bit different problem. Let's go on to number 6. As you see, we do not have common denominators. So 8 and 4, the best option would be 8. Okay, you could do 32, you could do 24, but the best option would be 8 for our common denominator. So 6 and 1/8 minus 2 and 3/4. Keep the 6, but make the bottom stay 8. Keep the 2, change the bottom to an 8. 8 times 1 would keep this 8, so 1 times 1 makes him stay a 1. 4 times 2, so 3 times 2 makes 6. Now, we wrote about what's going to happen earlier. We cannot do 1 minus 6, but we're not going to call it -5. We're going to, in fact, borrow from this 6, so we're going to cross him out and make him a 5. And add the equivalent of 1 to 1/8. Well, what that would be is 8 over 8. So this is going to change to be 5 and 9/8, and the bottom will just stay 2 and 6/8. Now we can subtract 9 minus 6, that's 3, keep 8, and 5 minus 2 is 3. So that's how you would do number 6. Now I know that was probably a little confusing, so we will practice this again in just a second. Let's go on to number 7. No common denominators, so I want you on your own right now to turn it into a common denominator of 20. So go ahead and show me the work on your paper while I do it right up here. And when you're ready, you can look at my paper as well. Don't cheat. Okay, I'm going to show you the answer, so pause the video if you need more time. You should have 6 and 11 twentieths minus 4 and 18 twentieths. 11 minus 18 cannot be done. So, borrow, take the 6 down a number, add the equivalent of 1 to this fraction, keeping a denominator of 20, that would be 20 over 20. So this would be 5 and 31 twentieths minus 4 and 18 twentieths. Okay, now we're ready to subtract these. 31 minus 18. Ooh, that's a tough one. Let me go to the back side and do that math. 31 minus 18. Guys and girls, there's absolutely no shame in writing this stuff on your paper. So please make sure you do, because it's silly to miss the problem because you're trying to do the work in your head. So we found out that would be 13 over 20, and 5 minus 4 would be 1. Now, we're ready for our last problem we're going to do together, and then you have 2 on your own before you practice. Do you notice that this does not have a fraction beside it? Well, you should, because it doesn't. We've got 10 minus 5 and 18 nineteenths. Now, this is basically 0 over, I'm going to keep a common denominator of 19. 0 minus 18 is going to do something weird, so we've got to do what we've been doing over here. We've got to borrow 1 from the 10 and add 1, so add 19 over 19, so the denominators are the same. 9 and 19 nineteenths minus 5 and 18 nineteenths would give you 19 minus 18, 1 over 19. 9 minus 5 is 4. And it doesn't reduce. It is not top heavy. So there's our answer. Do the other 2 problems, number 5 and 9. Pause your video and then check back with me. All right, let's check. Number 5 right here in the middle is 3 and 1/6. And number 9 way down here would be 8 and 5/6. Okay, you've got 4 to practice on your own, just like yesterday. All work on the back side. If you do not have it, you will not be counted as having these notes completed on time. Good luck!